How y'all doing? Now we're gonna make a cup of coffee for this episode of Coffee Time. So we're gonna use our mocha pot. Oh man, those beans cost too much of money to spill. Man. So if you put your beans in your pot, your strainer, you have a good idea of how many beans you'll need for the grind. Now, the mocha pot is not a it is not a true espresso. And we used about a cup of water. But it's not a true cup of espresso. And we don't have a problem with that because we're going to enjoy this whole process. So now I'm going to just sit this on the side and I'm going to grind these beans up. All right, our grinds are ground. I'm going to sit this on the side. Yeah, I'm going to put it right here. And the next thing I need to do is put our grinds in the strainer. So when I pull this out, most of the grinds are in this little parchment paper that I put in the box. So you make like a little burrito. Now, you take your parchment, put it on an angle. All right. Now you put your parchment back in there. And this is unbleached parchment. That's why it's brown. It's unbleached. Put that back in like that. And we might just leave our grinder right there. Now hold the bottom and screw on the top. Don't cross thread it. It don't need to be super tight either, just tight enough. Now I need to put on my tank. Here we go. I wonder what's going on with my stove. And this mocha pot does not fit on the burner the best way, but it works. I don't want to smother the flame either. So that's fine. Now I'm going to take my cup and I'll just sit it right there. How about that? Now you just watch that. It's smoking because I cooked ground beef on it. So that's probably just the fat burning. That's some serious BTUs. Now, whenever you make coffee and you go to a fancy restaurant, they always temper your cup with hot water. And the reason you put hot water in that cup is you want that cup to wake up. I hope that's... Let's see, let me try something a little different. I don't like the way that's looking. Okay, so when I put... Okay. Alright, so when I put the mocha pot on the burner like that, it's actually pushing the flame down. It's okay, it's fine. I've done it a million times in this pot. So what's happening is the flame is banking down and it's ending up under the burner. See? And so the burner is heating up this element, which is putting off a little bit of smoke. Eventually, I'm going to get... That's almost too warm for me to pick up. But anyway. So eventually, I'll get a little apparatus to get that flame off of the burner. Or to get the pot off of the burner. I just haven't found the right size yet. So my grinder, I bought this from a secondhand store, and I like it. I don't know if it's really more than a novelty piece, but it works really good. And I like having it because it's manual. It's less likely to break. And I don't need energy. Oh, look at we brewing already. So let me shut this. And you'll know it's ready when you listen to the sound and you stop hearing it boil or steam. Water boils at 212. And this is my favorite part of the process. So we're about where we need to be with that. So I'm going to turn the heat off. And I'm going to close my propane tank. Just like that. Now all of that hot water I put in this little special cup. My cup is woke up. It has awoke. And let's pour us a cup. So I'll put it right here on the edge. Let's get a better shot than that. Tell you what, I'll sit around the burner. How about that? Whoo! Now you know, that is a proper cup. So I'm gonna sit it right here. And if you want to do cream and sugar, you could. I'm not a fan of cream and sugar. But there are occasions where I do cream, I do sugar. But those are rare moments. And don't forget, I know it's hard to see, but pinky's out. That is mighty fine. And if I drop that, I'm gonna cry. Promise you that. So, one of the nice things about taking a minute when you brew coffee is it slows everything down. It slows everything down. You actually have to work for it. It's not so fast and convenient. And it makes you savor the moment, you know. And I think oftentimes about people of yesteryear, you know. You had a lot of folks throughout history that they all have done this. They've drank coffee. And what's interesting is the mocha pot has a rich history in the coffee world, you know. And I remember being a little kid looking at them and being like, man, when I grow up and get older, I'm gonna get me a mocha pot, you know. But this company has been around for a long time, and they're well known. These coffee pots are iconic. There's a lot of talk about whether or not they're real coffee pots or espresso pots, excuse me. But I looked it up online, and the experts say there's degrees to coffee, and this is right under espresso, but it's the closest espresso you could get. It's as close as you could get to espresso, you know, without the fancy machine. But anyway, that's a different discussion for a different day. But I enjoy what this pot is able to do. And I also enjoy the portion size of it. And 1 cup of coffee, you know, 8 ounces of water, that's not many of these little demi-tasse. This cup is really special to me, and I don't like to use it because it's so special to me, but I know I'm only going to have it for a certain amount of time. And my daughter, sous chef, took a cruise about a year plus ago, and he ended up in Mexico. And so she bought me this cup. And so I'm plagued with not being able to do anything with the cup, but the best gifts are the ones you can use. Tell you a funny story. So, some friends of mine, they invited me over for a gathering. So we're at a party at the house. And most people in Southeast Louisiana, when we get together, it's always a food-based party. So at some point, somebody's going to put a coffee pot on if they already don't have it on. Because in New Orleans especially, coffee is such a social drink. Somebody come over, you put a coffee pot on. You go by somebody's house, they put the coffee on. It's just a social drink. Throughout the day, people drink coffee. Well, I'm at the gathering. We have a great time. I don't remember what food we ate. I don't remember what dessert we had. But I do remember this. So, coffee cups are being handed out like a newspaper boy throws the daily paper, you know? And there's probably 30 people there. They had a lot of coffee mugs. So, I get a mug. And I start drinking my coffee. And it was so good. It was a really good cup. Some kind of way, like Murphy's Law says, that cup fell. And when that cup fell, it broke. And I think I might have tried to do like the soccer save. When something's falling, you stick your foot out, it hits your foot, and it breaks the fall of the item, but it still broke. And I was so heartbroken. And then it gets worse. I was told that was Grandpa's coffee cup. Now, Grandpa had been dead for about 3 years. And boy, I felt as big as a pea. A petit pois. I felt as big as a pea. And it was like, look, don't feel bad. Grandpa had hundreds of cups. But still, I broke Grandpa's cup, you know. And I'll never forget that event. That's been quite a few years ago. Now, when you're drinking coffee and you have a pot like this, a mocha pot, or you have another pot, like a drip pot, I showed you in one of the other videos, what you could do to keep your coffee in the reservoir hot, you could take some boiling water and you could just sit your pot in that boiling water. And that'll act as an insulator and it'll keep it hot. Or you could put it in a carafe. You heat the carafe up by adding hot water to it first, and then you pour the coffee in that carafe, and now you can just push the button and it'll stream down into the cup. You know, like when you go to the coffee shops, those are carafes. Push that little button and it comes on out. But if you heat it up with hot water first, it'll keep your coffee hot longer. But that was another coffee story I wanted to tell y'all. And because of the diabetes, it got me. But it had to do with coffee. Just like that. So, when I worked at the firehouse, I drank a lot of coffee. And some of my favorite moments, we'd come in from a late call, 11, 12, 1 in the morning, and I'd get me a nice cup. And then I'd get back in the bed and try to go to sleep, you know. And sometimes I was actually able to go back to sleep. But coffee is very relaxing, you know, to drink. Some people say it's addictive, and it could be. I could see that for some people, you know. And for others like us, that's the most absurd thing. Addicted to this? Really? Addicted to this? I'll drink to that. But I just learned this a few years ago. And this is why I made the video on dried coffee, instant coffee. You should have a few years worth of instant coffee, I feel, in your house. And the reason being, you may not like it, but if we ever have a situation because of weather or man or whatever, instability, where you couldn't get coffee beans, just think about coffee from that standpoint. Instant coffee would be worth more than gold because all you have to do is add hot water. Personally, there's a website that Water Dog turned me on to, and it's called Sweet Maria's, and it's a coffee website. So Sweet Maria's is a website where you can get all of your coffee beans from, and it's a beautiful website. You can even buy the beans green and you roast them yourself, or you can get them already roasted. And me and Sous Chef, we've roasted a few beans, and so we're going to order some more beans just so we can show you the process. And I have a certain pot, I have a certain cast iron pot that I use to roast my coffee beans. So it would be more of a sauce pot, so it's tall. And what you do, you wash the beans, the green beans, really good. So you wash them, you put them in a bowl of water, and you just do this with your hand through the beans. And so you want to get any hull or any impurity off of them. And when you finish doing that, when your hands start hurting, they're ready. So you dump that water off, You do it again, you do it again, you do it again. And then after that, you put them in that saucepan and you start heating them up. And just like making a roux or making pralines, parlines, pecan candy, whatever you want to call it, you just stir it and you stir it and you stir it. And as that water evaporates off of it, the beans are going to start to cook. And just a little clarification. The reason I use cast iron is because cast iron is a thick, heavy vessel, and it holds the heat evenly. You don't want to use a stock pot because most stock pots don't have a thick bottom. So if you look at your stock pot and it's just pot, that's not a good pot unless you're just using it for stock. But if you have a thick bottom on the bottom of your stock pot, you can use that because it's going to keep the heat even during the cooking process, which will stop you from having hot spots on your bottom of the pot. And so you just stir it and you keep stirring it, and then you'll start to smell the coffee roast, and then you'll start to have your whole house smoked out. So make sure if you do it, you have a window open in the kitchen and then you have a door open in the house. That way you can have cross ventilation going on and it won't set your smoke alarm off, because the fire department will have to roll. People will be at danger because of these big old trucks on the road for a non-emergency. So the responding unit still has to run code because it's an emergency. But the other units that are coming may downgrade their response. But anyway, you just stir it and stir it and stir it. And then there's a process called first crack. And that's when you hear the coffee start to crack. And you want to wait till it's set. It depends on the roast. So just read up on it. But it depends on how much you're trying to roast the coffee. For example, French roast is almost to the point of burnt. And that's what gives French roast such a romantic flavor. And if you want more caffeine in it, then you don't go darker as far as your roast is concerned. You do a light roast or a medium roast or a blonde roast for that matter. But on Sweet Maria's website, the thing I like about it, they have all of that information, and you don't have to do it in a pot. But coffee is from the Kaffe, Kaffe region of Ethiopia. And so in the Kaffe region, they're known for roasting coffee. But a lot of coffee snobs from across the pond, over here in the big old bread bowl, they say that they roast the coffee too much and they burn it. And they say it's such a wonderful bean, why would they want to cook it that much? Well, they have thousands of years of culture. So that's how they do it, Tell you a little story. So there was a mom, and she was teaching her daughter how to cook. And maybe you've heard this story before. But when the little girl grew older and she started cooking on her own, the mom said, or the little girl was asked, "Mom, how come you always cut the roast off right there?" And so the mom said, "I don't know, baby, you gotta ask Grandma." So she asked grandmother, she said, "Grandma, how come when Mama cook the roast, she always cuts it off right there?" And Grandma says the most proverbial thing ever. She says, "Baby, that's because the roast couldn't fit in my pot." So here it is, you have 2 generations of people doing something, and you have 1 generation of a person wanting to know why the generation above them did it this way. And that generation didn't even know. They were just following what they were showed to do. And so they were doing it without really knowing that Mama pot was too small to cook this big old roast, so she cut the end of it off. So whenever you're doing something in life, try to find out why you're doing it. Because then and only then can you really understand what you're doing and other things associated with it. Because you may be able to improve on it. You may not. And there's nothing wrong with the culture and the tradition of some things. That doesn't need to be improved because that's just how we do it. But if that culture or that tradition needs to be improved upon, well, don't be afraid to improve upon it because you got the power to do that. You know. So when it comes down to how people do things in different parts of the world, that's just how they do it. You know. So you take what you can from those people, you respect their way of doing it, but ain't nothing wrong with putting your flavor on it. You know, in my opinion. But some things should be that's just the way we do it. And as Mr. Gump said, that's all I have to say about that. So thanks for watching this segment of Coffee Time. I hope your cup was just as good as this cup was. And I look forward to more feedback from you guys. You could even talk about certain conversations that you'd like for us to talk about at our next session of Coffee Time. So thanks for watching, thanks for sipping, and thanks for supporting the channel. We make a good team. And I did enjoy the conversation.